What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really fun battle video to do with you guys. Today we're going to be taking a look at the famous Benchmade Infidel OTF, and we're going to be comparing it with the also very famous Microtech Combat Troodon. These two knives are, this is my opinion on these two. These are the two biggest, like when I think of big, bad American double action OTF, I think of the Benchmade Infidel and the Microtech Combat Troodon. Yes, there are other big OTFs out there. Microtech has the new Direct Delta. Benchmade has some other OTF right now, and then there's the larger version of the Guardian OTF, and there's some other stuff. But these two are still like the most popular large US OTFs out there. And we're thinking large, right? So we're not thinking about their standard Troodon, the Ultratech, the UTX 85, or any smaller budget OTF out there. These are the two main guys. And right now I have in my possession a Benchmade Infidel that was actually lent to me by Mr. Spirited Whiskey. So thank you so much. Make sure you give him a follow. He allows me to take a look at a lot of really cool knives, and I would not have this knife in my possession if it weren't for him. So thank you very much. The Microtech Combat Troodon is mine. It was a recent purchase. I used to have a Combat Troodon, and I stupidly sold it back in 2014. So I told myself when the right Combat Troodon came along, I would purchase it again. And this beautiful Signature Series Hellhound Combat Troodon with the black handle came along with the tumbled blade and 204p steel, and I was like, yep, have to have it. But because I have both of these knives in my possession right now, I thought, let's do a battle video. This is not going to be structured. It's just going to be kind of a conversation that I'm having with myself. I will talk about pros and cons for either one. Let me first point out that these are OTFs. They are automatic knives. They're not going to be legal in all areas. So for a lot of you, this is just going to be for entertainment. They're also gigantic. So you need to check and make sure if you're interested in either of these knives, make sure you can actually carry knives this blade length. And in the case of the Infidel and the Troodon, both of them, the Infidel only comes in a dagger blade, meaning it's actually sharpened on both sides. And the Troodon actually does have an option for a dagger blade. So that's illegal in a lot of areas. So these knives can be illegal for a lot of different reasons. So make sure if you want to pick one of these up, there's a lot of red tape around ordering them. Some places won't ship them to certain areas. Make sure you are paying attention to that. For those of us who are fortunate enough to live in an area where these are completely legal to carry and own, like me, I live in Kansas, we can do this here, this might be helpful. So, before we get started here, if you've been enjoying my content for a while, or if you're brand new, either way, if you'd like to support me, and at the same time get your hands on one or both of these really cool channel stickers here, you can follow the link down in my description to my Patreon. Have a look around, and you can join any tier you want. If you'd like to gain access to my once-a-week Patreon exclusive content, the $3 and $5 tiers have the stickers as well, but you can definitely gain access to that exclusive content. We have some pretty cool stuff going on. And then also, at the same time, you can help me achieve my new goal of 90 patrons. Once we hit that goal, as is tradition, I will be doing another really awesome knife giveaway that will benefit everybody, whether you are a patron or just a viewer of my channel. So if you'd like to do that, the support would mean the world to me. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement on these guys. This is probably going to be a long video, so buckle up. Overall length of the Combat Troodon coming in at a little over 9 inches, 9 1/4, maybe 9.3 if you want to count that glass breaker. Tip to scale on the blade, you're looking at about 3.8 inches of blade, about 3.75, 3.75 inches of cutting edge. On the Infidel, you're also looking at just a hair under 9 inches, but the blade is definitely 4 inches, and the cutting edge is about it's like 3.7. Yeah, it's almost 3.75. They both have very similar cutting edges. They're very similar in terms of the body. Let's go ahead and weigh them. Get my scale out here. So both knives are aluminum on the handle, and the internals are steel. And then the blades are, they're two different types of steel, but they're about the same thickness. I would imagine the Combat Troodon has a little bit more in terms of, weight of the blade. So let's do the Infidel first. The Infidel coming in at about 5 ounces. And the Combat Troodon, a little bit bigger, coming in at 5.64. So if you're a stickler for weight and that 0.64 ounces is going to do you in, well, there you go. The Benchmade Infidel is the lighter of the two. In terms of carry profile, these are both, long. It's not a rectangle, but this is, so what I mean here is that like the height and width and all that stuff, the thickness, they're extremely similar. Extremely similar carry profile. Carrying both of these, I found was easy enough. I wear jeans or, thicker material pants every day, so I don't have a problem with that. If you're going to wear tight pants or you're going to wear basketball shorts, these are not knives that I'd recommend. That's ridiculous. Some people, I always remember the video where the guy talks about carrying a Praetorian tie in basketball shorts and that it's really not that bad. That doesn't make any sense. Be honest with yourself. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If you're wearing jeans, it's going to be just fine. Let's take a look at the materials on both of these guys. So like I said, we are looking at aluminum for the handle materials. You're looking at steel for the hardware and the internals. On the blade, on the standard Infidel, I've talked about this before, it lists as D2 on websites. A lot of people get up in arms about that. Guys, listen, on some of these really high-end American production knives or mid-techs or custom knives, they will simply list it as D2, but it's actually CPM D2. That is the case. In the case of Medford, like Medford knives, they always list as D2, but they're actually CPM D2. I know like in the case of CPM 154 and 154 CM, they are labeled, so but for whatever reason with D2, it's just not the case. So I'm going to guess Benchmade actually uses CPM D2, which is a completely understandable steel for a wide price range. Now, fortunately, they do have a Blade HQ exclusive version of the Infidel that comes in this exact same color setup, OD green aluminum and a black blade in S30V. That's a lot easier to swallow considering how much you have to pay for this, right? Now, this is not the Blade HQ exclusive version. This is actually the old, rare, discontinued Law Enforcement and Military Elite Edition. They no longer make this guy, but if you want to pick this exact knife up, the exact color setup, and you want the S30V, you can pick that up. Otherwise, you can get it black and gray or black and black in D2 steel. The Microtech Combat Troodon now comes in like any color imaginable. Literally, I think it's like pink and purple and blue and green and black and whatever. They got so many different ones. And then your blade comes in a variety of different shapes, whereas the Infidel only comes in a dagger blade. Now, it used to come in a drop point blade. You can only get it in a dagger blade now. In the Combat Troodon, the basic version, you can get drop point, you can get a dagger blade, and then I think there might be one other blade shape. And then the Signature Series has Warhound and the Hellhound, which is this aggressive Tanto. Now, you do have to pay more money for the Signature Series, and I'm not sure exactly what else I'm getting besides the special logo on the handle and the access to some of these more, special blades. But the same types of finishes are available. There's a ton of different finishes on the Troodon. You can get two-tone, you can get full DLC, you can get apocalyptic, you can get stonewash, you can get satin. They even do bronze, which is super cool. If you are a big, in terms of making the knife exactly what you want it in terms of appearance, the Combat Troodon has the Benchmade Infidel beat by a mile. You can get exactly what you want with the Combat Troodon. You also have more premium blade steels. It's kind of a mix-up, it's kind of random what you might get. Sometimes you need to call into the retailer and clarify because Microtech does certain runs and certain steels. They generally use M390, 204P, which is actually the same thing. 204P is made by Carpenter, M390 is made by Bowler, and then they do LMAX. So if you want a little bit of a tougher blade steel, go with LMAX. If you want to favor corrosion resistance and edge retention, go with 204P or M390. This was in 204P. I picked this up because I just don't see 204P as much as M390. It's the same composition. It's going to yield the same type of results with the same grind and geometry. It's just neat that it's 204P. These new ones do not say on the blade exactly what they are. So you have to get the information from the retailer. Let's talk about the deployment. So both of these are double action OTFs. There is a single spring in there, and there's tension, you know, created on one side or the other that pulls the blade back in or deploys it. I will say that the Microtech Combat Troodon fires much harder, is much more crisp, and to be honest, it actually feels like a higher quality deployment. It also has less play. It's very minimal. In fact, there's almost none. It has less play than the one I had in 2014, but there is a little bit of play. On the Benchmade Infidel, it does have a little bit of play. Now, that's not a big deal, guys. OTFs have play. They just do, except for the deadlock. That doesn't have any play, but that's a $1,500, at least a $1,500 custom OTF. That one doesn't. I'm not sure the exact benefit. I mean, these knives, both the Combat Troodon and the Infidel, there's plenty of examples online of people using them very hard in very dirty environments. And for the most part, they hold up. They're a lot more durable than people think, as I pointed out in the reviews of each of these. Which, by the way, guys, this isn't a review. I do have individual reviews of each of these knives. So if you want specifics, you know, you really want me to go into detail about each one, check out the reviews. It also does not have nearly as powerful of a deployment, but I have to point this out. In terms of the convenience of deployment, both in resistance of the switch, like pressure resistance, and the position of the switch, convenience, I'm going to go feeling of quality and power and just that. There is nothing like the Combat Troodon. This thing feels awesome. It feels incredible. I mean, for me, it was worth the money just to get that feeling again. The very first time you deploy an OTF, you're going to be like, wow. And then you're going to wonder, is the Microtech Troodon, the Combat Troodon, really like that much better in terms of the crisp, powerful OTF deployment? Yes, it is. Oh my goodness, it is sweet, right? You're not going to get that with the Infidel, but position of the, like, this is a nice position. This is probably a better position for the switch, which I would imagine is why Microtech started producing the die rack, which is, it's basically a Microtech Infidel, but it's got contoured handles. It's a little thinner. It's probably a little, it's a more evolved version of the Infidel. The reason I think it's better is because considering how this is going to go into your pocket, by the way, the pocket clip on this guy is awesome. I like the pocket clip on the Combat Troodon. It's all right. This pocket clip's better. Full deep carry. It's got that nice divot. It's got the perfect bill. Comes in and out of the pants easy. But you see where my thumb is? When I pull this guy out, my thumb is already there to deploy it. In terms of convenience, that's better. With this guy, it's fine. I got to pull it out. Then I have to reposition my hands and then deploy it. Not that big of a deal, but in practice, it's just like I really notice the convenience level of the Infidel, honestly. Another benefit that the Infidel has over the Combat Troodon is the fact that it actually has torque screws on the body, which means it's, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can get into this knife if for whatever reason there's something lodged inside of the OTF, and the only way to get it dislodged is to get inside of it. You're going to be able to do it on this guy. You probably could find a way to force your way into the Combat Troodon, but you're definitely going to mess up those tri-wing screws in the process, and you are also going to void your warranty. Microtech does not want you in their knives. They have a good warranty, arguably as good as Benchmade's. They will take care of you if something goes wrong. It'll take longer to get your knife back, though. And, you know, again, to come back to my original point, you just can't get into this guy without messing it up. You can get into this one. I don't know if Benchmade's warranty is the exact, if it's just as applicable to their OTFs as it is their other knives. They don't seem to care if you get into the knife and you know, clean it out. They just, you know, if you mess something up while you're in there and then you try to send it back, nah, they're not, I mean, like, that's going to be out. Understandably, that's fair. If you take your knife apart and you don't know what you're doing and you mess something up, that's your fault. That's not Benchmade's fault, you know, but they at least give you access to you know, the inside of this. So that's nice. In terms of ergonomics, both of them feel really good. I don't have a problem with either. This has less of a natural handle feeling than this guy, but both of them are incredibly easy to hang on to. The switch is out of the way. There are texture lines, you know, that help you with grip without creating hot spots on either knife. You run less of a risk of running your hand up on the blade on this guy, just considering the curvature on both sides. And This guy's got a little bit of protection, but not quite as much. So it's kind of one of those things. If you favor a certain aesthetic, go with the one you find more aesthetically pleasing. I don't find an issue either way with ergonomics, but ergonomically, I'd give a slight edge to the Infidel. The other thing that I think is worth pointing out is the Infidel is truly almost perfectly symmetrical, especially this way, right? If the whole like something being non-symmetrical, if that bothers you, the Combat Troodon is going to bother you for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it's not a symmetrical handle this way because it rises up. And number two, the blade is shifted more to this side. That doesn't bother me, but I know there are people out there who that bothers. So that's something that you're going to have to deal with. If you're cutting and you're looking down this thing and you're like, why is that blade off to one side? That's just how they do the internals, right? So maybe that'll bother you. I don't know if the new ones are like this, but you can see there is a little bit of area, and it probably could be remedied by just adding some lubricant right there. There's a little bit of play in the switch moving down like that. Now there's play in both switches in terms of like you can hear it. It moves around a little bit, but in terms of like where that switch goes when I let it go, no, it goes right back into position. Same way with down here. I push it up, it goes right back down into position here. So the Combat Troodon in all areas feels much more crisp, much more tight. Everything feels tight and locked together. Feels good. The Benchmade Infidel is a little more loosey-goosey, but it has some, it's got a little bit better ergonomics. It's got a symmetrical shape. It's easier to get into. It's got a more convenient switch location, things like that. In terms of the build all the way around, like the fit and finish and everything, everything looks great on both knives. There's nothing wonky. On the Benchmade Griptilian, I've noticed, on this black blade, you can see there's some rub marks. That's not necessarily just a Griptilian thing. I know that the Troodon blade rubs a little bit too. That's just to be expected given how this blade deploys. You can't see it on the Troodon because it's a tumbled blade. That's why I wanted that, because I started to notice on my 2014 model, the satin finished blade was getting a couple of rub marks. It's just that's gonna be the case, guys. It's not that big of a deal. It's just gonna be the case. Truthfully, the only aesthetic mark that really bothers me on either of these knives between the two, the Hellhound is perfect to me. This is visually a perfect OTF. I do not mind that it's not symmetrical. I love that blade shape. Despite not being the biggest fan of Tantos, it is just the quintessential, like, most aggressive, angry looking knife, and that's why I bought it. I like it. Not that I'm trying to scare anybody. I'm a knife person, and I like OTFs, and this was like my dream OTF, so that's why I bought it. The Benchmade Infidel is very aesthetically pleasing, has a lot of great lines. I love the body of the handle. I love the blade shape. It's fantastic, but the one thing that bothers me are those. We've talked about this before. I do not like how that looks. It just sucks. Why do they do that, But, whatever. A lot of people aren't going to be bothered by that, so no big deal. Let's talk about this area back here. What's this little hole? That's a drainage hole. If you have this thing in your pocket and you fall out of a boat, or you are wading through a swamp or whatever, if this thing fills up with water, it has a drainage hole or whatever liquid, oil, lubricant, whatever, and it can come back out of there. On this newer Combat Troodon, and by newer I mean it's got the newer style glass breaker, and I don't know what else. Maybe the pocket clip's a little bit different. It used to have an area there were holes on the sides of the glass breaker that, number one, there was where this connected, there was sort of a hole that led up to it, and those acted as drainage holes. And number two, you could stick a metal rod in there and unscrew it if you needed to take the pocket clip off. It doesn't have that anymore, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's terrible, that sucks. Okay, just turn the knife this way, and the main area where the blade comes back out will act as a drainage hole. But because I know that some people will be bothered by that, that's why I pointed it out. This one does have a drainage hole, and this one doesn't. Now, to add another point in favor of the Combat Troodon, the Combat Troodon does have a glass breaker that, in all honesty, I don't really care about glass breakers, but if I did have to break glass, that's one of the best. I mean, that is going to break glass. I have a very secure purchase on this guy. If I needed to smash out a car window, if there was a child trapped inside of a vehicle out in the sun, and this is the only thing I had on me, Oh, you bet I could break that 100% with this guy. You could do that. With this, nope, it's just a flat butt. You know, I mean, you could bang on it all day, but you're better off just getting a rock or something. It just doesn't have a glass breaker. Considering the style of these knives, you know, they're tactical automatic knives. I don't know. I mean, if any style of knife is going to have a glass breaker, it seems to make more sense on an OTF, but take that for what it's worth, I guess. The pocket clip, we were going to get to that. So the pocket clip on the Benchmade Infidel is just flat out perfect. It's symmetrical, it carries deep, it's easy to get in and out of your pants. It's not going to fight you, doesn't have a bill, it's just great. Combat Troodon pocket clips, okay, carries deep other than showing the glass breaker. It's got kind of two areas where it's going to pinch it against your pants. There is some texturing down here, so it's going to fight your pants a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. It is still aluminum, so it's going to be fairly smooth. It does have a bill, and that bill can definitely get caught on things, and it's also going to create a little bit of a hot spot if you're going to do some heavy cutting over and over and over again with this guy, which is probably not the case with most OTFs. Most people are not gonna, it's not gonna be like they're dedicated, like long time cut. Like if you have a job that requires you to like cut cardboard for long periods of time, this is probably not what you're gonna use. You're probably gonna use a box cutter. But for anybody who is gonna find themselves in that situation, is gonna find that that pocket clip is just gonna bother you a little bit. Let's talk about price, right? So these knives, you know, there's a lot of people out there, like, this is a long time sort of competitive thing between these two knives. A lot of people are like, nope, I only want the Benchmade Infidel. I do not like the Combat Troodon. That's just what I'm going to go with. And a lot of other people are like, nope, Microtech all the way. The Combat Troodon's a better knife. It's a better build. There's good reasons to go with both. Here's a reason. Here's something that you should not be considering at all when you're purchasing this OTF or any other OTF. I still hear people talking about this. It does not matter the amount of power that is throwing the blade. Neither knife will go through the material that you hold it up to. Both knives will do this. They will derail. It is stupid to purchase an OTF based on spring power because you like the idea of being able to hold these knives up to a surface and fire them. That only works in the movies. It does not work in real life. That is stupid. There's a very old video out there, one that actually created quite a bit of controversy. I'm not going to label it. You guys can go find it if you want. Where this guy talks about the spring power, and he holds up a folded piece of paper and he's like, look how weak the spring is. It won't go through this paper. And he talks about, that's so dumb. That is, oh, that's not why. You don't buy an OTF for that reason. An OTF is a tool of convenience, right? Got it on your person. Deploy it, make the cut, pull it back. I mean, it's easy, right? That's the only reason. It doesn't matter how powerful the spring is. Combat Troodon fires harder, and you have a little bit more of a feeling of quality. You know, I'll admit that, but I do not care about how hard the spring fires. I mean, somebody's going to ask, if you held this up to like your arm or your hand and you deployed it, would it hurt you? Yes. Yeah, it's going to derail it, but you're going to give yourself a nasty poke. Don't do that. That's stupid. That's not a reason to buy an OTF. I will not get into that conversation with anybody again. That is dumb. There is no reason to, you know, look at that as a quality or a measure of quality. Now, let's talk about price on these guys. Both of them are incredibly expensive. To be honest, I can't openly recommend these knives to everybody for a multitude of reasons. Number one, they're automatic knives. They are big and scary and aggressive. This is the stuff of nightmares for a lot of people who are afraid of knives in general. Knives like these will scare people. They're, like I said, they're very big. In the case of the double edge thing, that's going to cause it to be illegal. So that's going to make it not a knife that neither of these knives I can recommend to everybody for that reason alone. Also, they're incredibly expensive. The base price of an Infidel is $400 and what is it now? $425, $435. The base price of the Combat Troodon is $465. If you are in an area where it is legal to carry all variants of this knife for, you know, the length, the double blade thing, the fact that it's automatic, and you have the money to spend on the OTF, you can financially justify it, and you are specifically looking for a large, well-built OTF, yeah, I can recommend both of these knives. For everybody else, no. The truth is I think both of them are a little bit overpriced in their base forms. I honestly, neither of these knives I really would like to see more than $350. Both have excellent warranties. Both are built very well. They're going to do their jobs. They're going to be durable. They're going to be more durable than I think most people realize in a number of different settings. Obviously, this is going to be a weaker setup than a folding knife. Most folding knives, most budget liner lock knives are going to be more durable than the locking system that you would find on the internals of the either these OTFs or any OTF. I feel like they're both quite a bit, especially the Combat Troodon is a little bit overpriced. I think both of these knives would be just fine at $350. Excellent warranties. Microtech's warranty is gonna take a little bit longer, in terms of turnaround than Benchmade, or at least that's what I'm hearing. But in the case, especially the Signature series, like if you really want this blade and you want the Combat Troodon, you're going to pay, most retailers have these at $685. Don't pay that much. Unless you're like me and you just love that Hellhound Tanto blade and you just have to have it. I'm going to be straightforward about this. I want to be clear. I overpaid for this knife. I was very aware that this knife was overpriced, right? And I went ahead and bought it anyway because that's what I wanted. So if you're in the same boat as me and you're just trying to get what you want and it's going to make you happy, if you want exactly this and you're wondering is it going to make you happy? Yeah, but if it's not the Hellhound blade, then just get the standard version. You don't need to pay the extra money for the Signature series and the Hellhound blade. You'll be perfectly happy with the drop point blade. So both of them are very expensive. Now, I know people really hate it when I conclude these battles and I'm like, pick the one that's the right one for you. It's circumstantial. Everybody wants to know which one would you pick. Well, I think it's obvious, it's the one that I bought. The knife that I like more is the Combat Troodon. My value goes into, I like that feeling, the little bit, the crisp, hard deployment of the Combat Troodon. I like that there's less play. It feels like a higher quality item. I'm willing to sacrifice the convenience of the switch location and the fact that it's using proprietary hardware and I can't get into it. I'm not going to try to get into this knife. I am never going to use this knife in a dirty, dusty environment, despite it really being made as a soldier's tool, I'm never going to get into it. I do not care that there's no drainage hole. The pocket clip doesn't bother me that much. It's just, and it's got the blade that I wanted. It's got the look that I wanted. And honestly, I really, lately, especially, I kind of like Microtech knives more than Benchmade knives. I just do. I don't care about the controversies of either. I do not care about Benchmade's controversies. I do not care about Tony Marfione's controversies. I don't care. You can bring them up if you want to. It's not going to sweat. I'm aware of them. I don't care. That sounds so aggressive, but people always bring, did you know that Benchmade this? Or did you know that Tony Marfione that? I don't care. I'm interested in the knives. That's it. It's like the Gillette commercial. I don't care if I want a razor. Gillette makes a good razor. I don't care about the controversies of the companies. So yeah, keep all that in mind. The Microtech Combat Troodon is my favorite, but it is more expensive, especially if you get up into this Signature series, Both are well made. You're not going to make a wrong choice either way, but consider everything that I brought up. If some of those things bother, if you are more of a, listen, I want a straightforward tool. I want, I value convenience over all else. Which one should I go with? Probably the Infidel. If you're like, hey, complex, I want the one that feels the most aggressive and powerful and well put together, and the one that feels the most crisp. I imagine it a certain way in my mind, and it's very satisfying and gives me that feeling of, powerful. Which one should I go with? The Combat Troodon, definitely. I mean, in my opinion, the Combat Troodon is the biggest, baddest double action OTF out there. I know somebody's going to go, nuh-uh, Halo 6. That's a single action OTF, guys. It's a single action. You push a button, it's one spring that fires it out, and you got to cock it back into place manually. So anyways, very ranty discussion here. I hope this was at the very least entertaining for you guys. That's really what this is meant for. It's not really meant to come to some definitive conclusion that says absolutely one is better than the other. It's mainly meant as entertainment, just so you guys can hear my thoughts on this stuff. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.